After years of development, The Flash finally released in theaters, so today I thought it was time for me to stop and talk about The Flash. Please know that everything that I will say in this video is just my very own opinion. My name is SW Nation, and you are free to comment down below your very own opinion on The Flash movie. Please don't forget to check out that Twitter that's going to pop up on your screen right now, and also that Arrowverse playlist. That link is in the description, and that DC playlist, that link is also in the description as well. You can check out my channel for other Flash-centric videos. That being said, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into our review.
Tell me something. You can go anywhere. So why do you want to stay and fight to save this one? Because this is the world where my mom lives.
Like most films coming out this year, this was in my top 10. So, without further ado, let's get right into our good. And the good thing that comes to mind here is that I adored this movie, especially after seeing Flash Season 9. Right out of the gate, we established that The Flash will be one of the most unique in DCEU films, thanks to Andy Muschietti's direction. He directed this film with a whole lot of heart behind the camera, and it seemed like he was just trying to make the best movie that he could make with this titular character, and I think he did a fantastic job, especially because I really like his work on the It film, so that's what really got me excited. Barry has this emotional journey that he goes on throughout the film that makes sense. With what we know about his origin and his power set, right out of the gate, we get the emotions behind his actions that initiates the plot itself. Barry's mother dies and his dad is sent to prison only when he was 8 years old. And the moment that he discovers that he has the power to go back in time, he now can avoid all of that trauma that he's experienced for the last 18 years. Ezra Miller, as bad as a person they are really great in this film. To be honest, they carry the movie for me. Yeah, you have Michael Keaton in there, Ben Affleck, all of these other great stars inside of the film, Michael Shannon, but Ezra Miller is the star of this film, and they do a phenomenal job playing this version of Barry. In fact, they play two different iterations of Barry, both versions very different, both are likable and unique in their own way, and I thought they worked fabulously together. One Barry is older, the other Barry is younger. This younger Barry is a lot more annoying than our older Barry, but I liked him. And he was very funny, and he was jovial, and he just created a nice little light for the film. Whereas his older Barry is more wiser. He knows and understands the Speed Force and how to use his abilities and the consequences of using his abilities to disadvantage. While the DCEU is rebooting, this movie gave us just a little glimpse of a DCEU that we could have had. Obviously, Ben Affleck Batman is in there, and this isn't a spoiler, but the movie starts off with Ben Affleck's Batman in a chase scene through Gotham, and Barry has to zoop in and save some civilians. It's simple enough, right? But it plays like something that I've been wanting from the MCU for a very long time. Heroes just show up. It's very cool to see that this is the Flash's film. He's the titular character, of course. But every once in a while on a random Saturday morning, Ben Affleck's Batman might swoop in to help save the day, or Ben Affleck's Batman is pursuing a chase and the Flash has to come in and save civilians while Batman leaves behind all of this destruction while he goes and get the bad guys. It plays like the Justice League cartoon. It plays like something that I've been wanting from the DCEU and from the MCU for a very long time. Like I said before, heroes just pop up, save the day for like 3 minutes, and then the movie stays about that titular character. Michael Keaton returns as Batman from 89 and 92. Before I saw this movie, I watched Batman and Batman Returns, and from the moment you enter Wayne Manor, it feels like we never left from the 92 and 89 version of it. He was very great, a little rubbery and fake at times. There's no reason for me to believe that this 70-year-old Batman can do all of these crazy stunts and fight moves. But I kind of buy into it a little bit. If I can suspend disbelief that a man can run at super speed and a woman can fly around, I can suspend disbelief that a 70-year-old Batman can't do all of this. And it felt like Michael Keaton was actually trying. It felt like he loved to be there, and it felt like he was having a great time just returning back to this character. I love it when actors return back to their roles that they previously played, that everybody knows them for. and they have a great time. They love this role. They're not actively trying to escape it. And Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck both tried their hardest at bringing their most known characters back to the screen. In my opinion, I think Batman is Michael Keaton's most known role. Yes, he had Beetlejuice. Yes, he has Vulture. I think Batman is his most known role. Also, Supergirl. Keep in mind, Supergirl is not a big part of this movie. She's promoted in the trailers, the posters, all of that, but she's not in a big part of this movie. But she was very awesome in the parts that she was in, and I would really like to see this Sasha Calle woman play Supergirl in Woman of Tomorrow, the Supergirl movie that James Gunn is doing over at DC. I would really love to see her play this character, because I mean, if they're the way that they describe Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, I feel like it's kind of in the same DNA of this Supergirl here. So I would love to see her be that version of Supergirl, and I think it could be a whole lot of fun. Supergirl, in my opinion, was very cool. Would I have loved to see Kal-El, Henry Cavill Superman, just be this character? Yes, but I'm fine with Supergirl. I thought she was awesome in the film. Also, one thing that I really loved about this film is that it wasn't Flashpoint dead on. It had some elements of Flashpoint. Yes, there were some comparisons to Flashpoint, but it was his own story. And yes, it's very similar to Flashpoint again, but I like the fact that it was very different from the Flashpoint story that we know and love. They also were able to perfectly explain and display the Speed Force that felt understandable and clear to casual fans. I know what the Speed Force is from the TV show. I know how it operates. But in this film, it's much different. The way that they visualize it, the moment that you see it, it all makes sense about what he's doing, what he's seeing. And I think that was one of the best things going for this movie, that people, casual fans, can perfectly understand what is going on here. The Speed Force is a complicated idea and concept, but they found a way to visualize it for casual fans. Did it look good? We'll get into that later. Also, this film was very funny. From the jump, you could tell that they were going to have a very comedic tone. It wasn't going for every joke possible, but they had some very great stingers in there that had me dying at times. Also, whether you like it or not, this is a love letter to the DCEU. It's been 10 years since Man of Steel. The final battle of this film is literally a scene from Man of Steel. It has so many references to Man of Steel, to Zack Snyder's Justice League, to almost every other DCEU film. And I love that a lot. Characters from the DCEU are in this movie. At least support the film that has the most DCEU in it. At the end of the day, the story also teaches our hero a lesson. It's an actions have consequences story, and I love stories like that. Barry going back in time to save his mother has drastic consequences, and no matter which way you look at it, no matter how he changes the timeline, if his mother stays alive, that creates a whole slew of problems. So he has to learn the lesson to let go of that trauma, and that his trauma of his mother dying does not define him. It's the actions that he makes today that defines him. I love all of that. I love stories like that. And it's very reminiscent of Batman Begins, but it's just a little bit different here, that you have a character that has the ability to and can go back in time to save the person that they lost. And lastly, obviously, I gotta talk about it, cameos. The cameos were pretty alright for the most part, but, and I'm really not trying to be different here, and I hope a lot of people agree with me on this, the cameos are not the best part about this movie. They are there and they happen. You see them. You see the different cameos people. But I didn't find that to be the best part. That wasn't the things that got me smiling throughout my seat. It was the humor, the emotional moments. All of that worked for me. Just the cameos themselves. They went from cool to odd, then back to cool again, to interesting, and then to wow. They really did that. That's how the cameos worked inside of this film. And the bad thing that comes to mind here, and unfortunately there's some bad. The CGI sucks, man. It's so weird, and I get what the director was going for. I mean, even though he said it doesn't make it better. And it feels like we went back in time, just like Barry in the movie, in CGI. I think the effects just didn't look all the while good. And the way that the director described it as, we're supposed to be looking at the CGI through the eyes of Barry. Barry doesn't really know what he's seeing. It's kind of out of focus. It looks a little bit rubbery. Okay, I get all of that. I get what you're saying. But it's not clever. It's just weird. It's not something that the general audience would understand. It's not something that I even understood before I read the interview. I'm just looking at this movie about The Flash that's been completed for a year now because they did test screenings last year. That's coming out in the year 2023 that has time to perfect CGI. That has the budget to perfect CGI. And it looks as bad as The Scorpion King. Also, I'm kind of conflicted on this as well. Even though the movie was really great, this movie literally had a simple story. And it took them this long to make that story. It took them this many writers and directors to make this story come out, when in actuality, it's a very simple story. I mean, this is the common Flash story. Barry wants to go back in time to save his mother. Okay, actions have consequences. Bam, you bring in, a different Batman or a Supergirl instead of a Superman. Something like that. This felt like one of the safest bets for a story, and I don't know why it took that long to make, but I still like the film nonetheless. In conclusion, The Flash works solely on the actions have consequences story, as well as the emotional depth of its characters and also its plot. Ezra Miller is great in the role, and if the question comes up, which one is better, Ezra Miller or Grant Gustin, you can't really compare the two. Grant Gustin played a fantastic Flash on the CW, whereas Ezra Miller played a really great Flash in this film. So they're very different from Grant Gustin in terms of which Barry they play. The rest of the cast is great. It seems like Michael Keaton actually wants to be there because he's actually trying. The humor was spot on. The action is epic. And the DCEU is a set-up, lived-in world in this film where heroes can just pop up for a minute or two to help save the day. Also, at the end of the day, our hero learns a lesson about utilizing their powers with responsibility. About how if you break time, no matter how hard you try to put back the pieces, it's never going to be the same again. Actions have consequences. I cannot stop raving about this film. It perfectly met my expectations. I loved this movie. It's an A+, a 9.8 out of 10. And I would say definitely go see it in theaters. Even if you think the DCEU is rebooting, the DCEU is all over this film. Snyder is all over this film. It's a tribute to the last 10 years of the DCEU. Even though we didn't even get that much of the DCEU, it's still a love letter to what we could have gotten. Alright guys, that is it for the review. Please know that everything that I did say in this video was just my very own opinion. You're free to comment down below. What did you think of the Flash movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Comment that down below in the comment section. Please don't forget to check out that Twitter. That's going to pop up on your screen right now. And also that DC playlist. That link is in the description. And also that Arrowverse playlist is in the description as well. With that being said, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all next time. Peace.